Welcome back to part two of Translates this episode on TCKs, Third Culture Kids. This is the first one for us, Richard,
First one with part
with
two.
part two.
Yeah. So, guys, if you haven't heard part one, go back.
Yes, part
You
one
need to go
on
back.
Translate.
This.
Yep, with.
Richard. I would say Melissa.
You
But
can say that.
you're Melissa.
And you're Richard.
Yeah. Don't listen. Well, it can be confusing sometimes. Yeah?
It can be sometimes.
All this identity talk, you just forget who we are.
I know. We left off on episode one or part one of Translates This, dive into TCKs we were just getting into traits of third culture kids and all of the people under the umbrella. We established already the fact that both Richard and I come from TCKs. We are TCKs and we've married TCKs, and our parents may have also married TCKs, and our children, my children, both had married TCKs. So I don't know. Have your kids dated TCKs?
Ooh, good question. Yeah. I think they're so different, but they're attracted to people who are not mainstream.
Right.
We'll just say that.
Yeah.
Definitely not. Yeah. But I also want to say we covered some of the realities that a lot of the TCKs represent many subcategories. So it's not we like just have one. A lot of us, So
there's many, and like I said in part one, was we need to remember that TCKs do not have to fit a mold, and they actually no person needs to fit a mold, and to remind all of ourselves that we can be simultaneously more than one at a time, and that there's no shame in that, because I know from a personal experience, I was criticized often by something you brought up earlier, which is something I want to talk about next in the personality traits. And then I was constantly criticized by, and ironic. Okay, so let me break this down. So I was criticized by, at the time, my best friend in high school, who couldn't stand the fact that I would sometimes change personality or act maybe differently around different people, which she didn't understand and I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Is that one of the traits of being a TCK is the natural ability to act like a chameleon. And you mentioned that in part one.
Yeah, it's a great. I mean, if I had to be an animal, that would be it.
Right. Me as well. And then act like a chameleon because they have grown up knowing that one changes their behavior, language, or customs to suit the situation.
Yeah. That's
so my natural reaction to other people, I definitely fit the chameleon mold, and I think you do as well.
Yeah.
And because you mentioned before that you're not a very extroverted person, you're more introverted, self-reflective. But when you're around people, no one would ever know this.
Right.
And the same thing, like with my husband, your best friend, the same thing. He's tends to be more like you, more reserved and whatnot. But when he's around people, he's Mr. Social Butterfly, and no one would know.
Right.
Because he's doing the same thing. And I am a weird mixture where I am, by all means and purposes, on the exterior extroverted, but I'm actually a shyer, more introverted person on a deeper level. I mean, I definitely need my downtime.
Yes.
And I go back and forth.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm either extroverted nor am I introverted, but I definitely flip-flop between the two. Because I understand what it feels like to be on, and then I need that off time.
Yeah.
And so that, I think, is also part of my TCK, that coming in front of people, that persona of, what are you like? How can I relate to you? How do I figure you out? It's exhausting.
Yeah.
It's exhausting trying to maneuver social norms and think to myself, what am I going to say, or how am I going to stand, or how am I going to act, or how am I going to dress, or how am I going to speak, not to stick out or not to offend.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
About this. I'm not going to deviate.
That's fine. You can deviate.
No, but this is definitely on this topic as a question, because I can hear some people listening to this saying, well, I'm not TCK, but I have to do that also. I don't like to speak, but I have to speak. It could be
Okay.
job interviews. It could be in your job you didn't want, but you do it, and so people have. I could see anyone having a similar experience where they don't want to.
Oh,
How do you differentiate between someone
yeah.
who's mainstream and someone who's not, and how that experience
Right. So
shows?
so uh research says that no one sat down with TCKs to teach us this and that it was learning by osmosis.
Okay.
Okay.
Hmm.
So there's one differentiation
Hmm.
because people that are, say, in business entertainment or whatever, perhaps some of them, not all of them, because
Hmm.
there's a lot of TCKs in the entertainment world.
Sure. Sure.
And I'm going to get to that too, but career
Okay.
choices in part three.
Okay. Can't
Okay.
wait.
But part two here, focusing on traits of TCKs, we had to learn it through trial and error.
Hmm.
And that's a big difference
Yeah.
where other people might have gone to college and learned how to do an elevator speech,
Right.
right? For those of you who
Right.
don't know what an elevator speech is, it's a sales pitch that
Hmm.
you only would have the same amount of time if you were writing down an elevator with somebody.
Hmm.
And that, 11 seconds or whatever it is,
Hmm.
you've got to, give your best pitch to the person.
Right.
So they call it elevator
Hmm.
speeches. And we have learned how to do that on our own. We didn't
Right.
take classes on how to make yourself a better communicator, how to make yourself this, that, or the other thing. We
Hmm.
just had to sink or swim, right? And as a result, TCKs grew up more culturally sensitive,
Okay.
more aware,
Yeah.
more interested in people from other countries and cultures,
Hmm.
and generally with cross culturally skills
Hmm.
that many other adults never acquire
Hmm.
because they've not traveled overseas until they were adults. And there is also another difference.
Yeah.
Many TCKs, like
Hmm.
ourselves, did international travel or interstate, like
Hmm.
out of state in in the
Or
US,
cultural
or
traveling.
cultural traveling
Hmm.
as children in our formative
Hmm.
years. There's under the umbrella again, remember there can be what's called domestic
Hmm.
TCKs.
Yeah.
I think Spain would be a good example of
Hmm.
this. So for people to understand this, in Spain there's 5 languages,
Hmm.
right? We've talked about that in another episode, and I cannot remember which one it was, but I'm
Hmm.
sure it was one of the good ones.
Look it up, guys. There's a whole list of episodes coming out.
Yeah, yeah. And what we discussed was the fact that, we have Gallego, we have Asturiano, we have Euskera, which is from Basque Country, we have
Catalan.
Castellano and Catalan, right? And so, and then there's arguments that there's a Valencian and then there's an Andalusian
Hmm.
dialect.
Hmm.
But the thing that if you have somebody from the south of Spain move to Catalan or the north of Spain, there are massive cultural
Hmm.
differences. And remember, the whole country of Spain is just a little bit smaller than California.
Right.
So, in terms of population, if you think about what that's like, that's a really telling situation where with even within your own country, if you move from one area to the next, both France and Spain have movies
Hmm.
that discuss these cultural differences. We have them
Hmm.
in the US too, but
Hmm.
the one here that is the most popular, I think it was one of the most popular films ever by
Hmm.
Spain,
Wow.
is Eight Basque Last Names.
Hmm.
And it was about a guy from Andalusia from the south who fell in love with a girl from the north who had come down to visit on vacation, and he follows her back up, and he makes up the fact that he's Basque because he wants desperately to date this girl. And the father's asking, "What are your last names?
Hmm.
You have to have at least 8 Basque last
Hmm.
names to date my daughter,
Hmm.
because we know then you really are Basque." That's
Yeah.
generations of Basque.
And what's our famous in the U.S. film that is cross cultural love? Right. It just came out as a remake.
Go ahead, because I actually have a few in my head.
Oh, okay. Well, West Side Story.
Yeah, well, of course.
Hmm.
Well, West Side Story, the story of immigrants, right?
Hmm.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly that.
Yeah.
But I was also thinking more recently,
Hmm.
there is Sweet Home Alabama,
Oh, with
where Reese
Reese
Witherspoon,
Witherspoon. Okay.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and she leaves the South,
Right.
and to go north
Yeah.
and reinvents herself as
Hmm.
in New York,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then goes
That's true.
back,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
falls back in love with
Hmm.
the Southern
Right.
guy that she left. There's just many
Yeah.
movies like that.
Yeah.
The one in France, there's one called the Ch'ti,
Hmm.
because there's a language
Hmm.
in northern France
Hmm.
uh, that is it's not quite Pig Latin,
Mhm.
but it's if you were to equate it to something,
Mhm.
it's a dialect that they
Mhm.
speak of French that is not French,
Mhm.
but it's a language from there,
Mhm.
and I wanna honor anyone who speaks Ch'ti, but
Mm.
instead of saying merci, they
Mm.
say «Si mer».
Wow.
So they do things
Uh-huh.
that's and nobody can really a lot of people and you're not from there, you can't
Yeah.
understand it. And we used to work with a girl from Lyon who married a guy from there, and she's like,
Mm.
"Yeah, I don't understand what he's saying."
Mm.
And that was another movie, The Shti, where famous Danny, and I can't think of his last name. Producer Lauren, do you remember the if she can look up the French actor? He's actually this is the coolest part.
Mhm.
He's also TCK. He's Algerian French,
Oh, wow.
and
Yeah.
he's one of the most famous recent
Mhm.
comedians
Mhm.
in French cinema.
Mhm.
Danny, and I can't remember his last name right now, but
Mhm.
he's hilarious as heck. And he stars in this where
Yeah.
he's a Ch'ti person from
Mhm.
the Ch'ti and a
Mhm.
postman from Nice
Mhm.
has to he's getting relocated to the north
Yeah.
and he has to go live there. And they're so exaggerated where down in the south of France, it's everybody, is on the beach and
Mhm.
it's that whole
Mhm.
community all year long.
Mhm.
So they send him to the north dressed in parkas
Mhm.
because they're afraid he's just gonna like freeze to death,
Yeah.
like as if he was going to Antarctica or going to, the South Pole or the North
Mhm.
Pole. And it's quite hilarious.
Mm.
And so basically okay, so
Yeah.
Lauren found it for me. Okay, it's Danny Boone who
Mhm.
stars and directs
Mhm.
many of these comedies, and he's hilarious,
Okay.
uh, internationally
Yeah.
hilarious. And relative to this conversation, there are positive things that people understand about these
Well,
changes,
you brought up France and totally
right?
help reminding me of right now in the world of soccer in European soccer.
Yes.
We have the two biggest stars right now, Mbappe,
Uh-huh.
who's French nationality but from Ghana, I
Right.
believe,
Yep. Yep. He's
and
he's Scotty's
so there's third culture, and then Benzema, who's
Benzema
in Madrid, lives in Spain, from
from
France
from Lyon
with Algerian
with
parents.
Algerian parents. I have a little song about
Mhm.
Mbappe.
Okay,
I'm gonna
go for
digress.
it.
So the Hanson brothers, and
Yes.
they sang Mbop, Mbop, whatever. So I whenever Mbappe is
Hmm.
on, I'm like Mbop, Mbappe, Mbop. I just sing the
Hmm.
Mbop song
That's cute.
to his name
Yeah,
because I like it. It's a fun song.
that you should teach that to the fan base.
I'm surprised somebody hasn't sang that already, but maybe it's too late. Who
Yeah.
knows? So another very common thing about
Yes.
TCKs and the reactions, there are two very common reactions to moving. They tend to be good at languages
Hmm.
because of the moves.
Yeah.
What do you do for a living, Richard?
Teach languages.
What do I do for a living?
Well, a lot of things, but yeah, based on languages. Everything based on
Exactly. And
languages.
I
Yeah.
taught languages and culture training and
Interesting that you brought that up too, because my aunt, who is part of that whole experience that I talked about,
right.
she started in languages and is still based in languages, and but in different. She's kind of expanded to diversity. Now she's
Yeah.
retired. Shout out to my Aunt Sharon, love you.
Yay.
But she's amazing, and I learned a lot from her. But she followed similar footsteps, with language. She speaks a lot of language. She speaks Russian, Spanish, others I
Right.
don't know yet.
Right.
Yeah.
And in
Anyway.
our language industry,
Hmm.
now that we're talking about this and we'll talk a lot about this with career choices, but in our language industry, just to briefly discuss this now, a lot of us are children of owners. We call ourselves COOs
Hmm.
because our parents, usually an immigrant,
Hmm.
started a language company that we work for.
Hmm.
Like in our industry, with Barbie International, started by my mom
Hmm.
and with me by her side. And now I'm second generation, and
Hmm.
Lauren is going to be third generation. My husband and I now run it, right?
Hmm.
But the thing of it is that it's almost a reverse prejudice in our
Hmm.
industry if you don't come from an immigrant background and you're running a company. Most of us do,
Yeah.
but if you don't, there's
Hmm.
skepticism.
Hmm. Because of the
Why are
lack of
yeah,
experience.
because of the lack of life experience or
Hmm.
language
Hmm.
experience. You're like, "Well, how come you're doing
Hmm.
this?" "Oh,
Hmm.
you must have come from the tech industry."
Hmm.
And no, and
Interesting.
yeah, it is interesting because just because you're a TCK
Hmm.
and we tend to be good at languages doesn't mean that you learn another language. I didn't
Right.
mean to make I want everyone to understand that.
Yeah.
You could be a diplomat's kid, military brat, whatever,
Hmm.
my brother-in-law was born in Japan, didn't speak a word of it.
Mhm.
You know, you could live all over the world and never learn another language other
Mhm.
than your own
Mhm.
passport country
Right.
language, because
Right.
that's what you're exposed to the most,
Mhm.
because you may not have enough time in
Mhm.
country
Mhm.
to learn the language.
Mhm. Right.
And so that also, in my personal experience, when I was 12 years old,
Mhm.
well, turning 12, excuse me, when I was 11, we moved to Guatemala and I was there a year.
Mhm.
And that's when I actually learned the majority of my Spanish
Right.
base.
Mhm.
Then we come back and continue to study Spanish in the
Right.
United States. But had I not done that,
Mhm.
I would have we again, we talked about this, the mixed race identity issue, episode, because we said, look, our mothers want us to be American, so they didn't emphasize the teaching of their
Yeah.
native language.
Yeah.
They only emphasized the teaching of their, target language or their second
Yes.
language and or third language in some, TCKs experiences.
That's
So
why, yeah, I don't speak Japanese and
no,
I wasn't taught it. But also looking now, because it's such a, we're so focused on this topic, I think about
yeah,
why I pursued language in a profession. And a lot of it was luck, a lot of it was just opportunity. But
mm-hmm,
like I continued with it because now I'm thinking more about it and reflecting
mm-hmm,
that it was my key into other cultures.
mm-hmm,
It was my permission to
mm-hmm,
enter and culturally surf, culturally travel,
mm-hmm,
to step in, step out, because I that fear, that knowledge, and the lack of identity was always chasing me, saying,
mm-hmm.
"You're never going to fully belong here."
Oh my gosh, I
So,
think you're reading my notes.
wow, wow,
I
really?
swear you're reading my
Yeah,
notes.
because that the language was the key to just say, "Okay, I'm ready to jump in another place,"
Yeah,
you know? And that's where I think is the biggest difference with the TCKs and people who have to force themselves into a different personality. Like if you're an introvert to be an extrovert,
right.
um, you always have your cultural base. You always
Mhm,
have your community, your roots.
mhm,
Whereas for me, there was always the fear of like if you
mhm.
you'll find yourself nowhere.
Yep.
You know.
100%. I think we have a very shared TCK persona,
Hmm. Hmm.
and relate to you in so many ways that way,
Hmm.
and, all of our family and friends see it
Yeah.
because they know that we talk about it a
Hmm.
lot
Yeah.
because it's how we cope. It's how
Yeah.
we learn to cope. It's what kept us going as humans and didn't allow us to just throw the towel in and be like, I'm done with this. I don't care.
Here's something even more like maybe this conversation is not as spoken because I think of our generation,
Yeah.
we're still like in denial, we're still
Right.
just navigating. A lot of us has found our base, so we don't deal with it anymore.
Right. Right.
But we don't still understand the effect on our lives, how it affects us, you know.
Well, okay. So we're good at languages, right?
Hmm.
And it, because we're exposed at early ages. So
Hmm.
you still were exposed to Japanese at an early age, and you still probably, if because
Hmm.
what we know about language
Hmm.
learning, if
Hmm.
you're exposed at a young age,
Hmm.
it's in there.
Hmm.
And if you went to Japan and spent some time there,
Hmm.
you would probably be able to work with that base that's in your head and maybe also
Hmm.
have that connection, because it often the speaking of several
Hmm.
languages plays a key role in our career choices as
Hmm.
TCKs. But the other thing too, they said, if one moved around a lot as a child, a mobile lifestyle may become the habit of a lifetime.
Hmm.
How many
Hmm.
places have we lived? Right. And before we answer that, it's that,
Yeah.
people tend to repeat their upbringing
Hmm.
and may have a migratory instinct as adults, which started during their childhood.
Hmm.
And this can be a positive factor because it represents a confidence and ability to cope with change.
Yeah.
However, it can also mean an inability to make long term commitment
Hmm.
to anyone or anything.
Hmm. Hmm.
Let's talk about that.
Sure. Sure. It's like, oh my gosh. So I one day had to sit down and count how many times I've moved,
I know.
and it took a while. It took a while, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was over 25 times.
Yeah.
I moved, change, or say changed addresses,
Yeah.
and that's either within the U.S. or outside the U.S.
Hmm.
You know, I've told, maybe said before in another episode, I've lived in 7 countries total,
Hmm.
visited more than 35, and that is just my journey.
Right.
That's my journey, and another thing, as people know, that I finally was able, thanks to my company, I was able to settle in Spain, which was the place where I feel most comfortable, and in a city, Madrid, where I'm just excited to wake up and walk outside my door every single day. And it's the first time in my life where I feel settled,
Yeah.
and things are changing for me. Like,
Mhm.
things are happening to me as this moment that I've never felt before, because I feel settled. I
Right.
feel like I don't need to move anymore,
Mhm.
And I can't. People ask why Spain. That's another story.
Yeah.
Actually, I'll save it for another episode.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. We can
definitely.
we can do that. But you also mentioned something about belonging, and this
Yeah.
is, and most importantly, TCKs face a complicated relationship with a sense of belonging because it's a key issue to any human. And where do TCKs feel that they belong? Where do they come from? Where is home? These are some of the hardest questions TCKs face and have
Hmm.
to answer, and sometimes end up feeling at home everywhere and have the ability to move and settle in anywhere,
Hmm.
or else home is nowhere,
Yeah.
always somewhere else, or constantly tempted to move and search for that
Yeah.
elusive somewhere that will be home so they can settle down. And I want to talk about that
Yeah.
because our family has accused us of being nomadic
Yeah.
in a negative way.
Hmm.
And in particular, actually, both sides of my family
Hmm.
have accused us of this. And gosh, you guys move a lot.
Hmm.
Interestingly, though, my brother-in-law and his wife moved for work,
Hmm.
and the family gave them a pass.
Hmm.
And I think really why?
Hmm.
Because I think they always thought that those they were going to come back,
Yeah.
which they ended up leaving Oregon. Everybody had moved to Oregon on my husband's side.
Hmm.
And then they went back to California. So they, along with my son, are in California.
Okay.
Um, and they're with my sister-in-law's family
Right.
there
Hmm.
because she needs to be with her family, take care of her parents and her and everything they've got going on there. So their son, though,
Hmm.
was raised in Oregon,
Hmm.
and he's just wants to get back to Oregon. He's a
Okay.
young adult now, and
Uh-huh.
he's trying to make that happen and find work
Okay.
so he can be there
Wow.
permanently. So they had to move a lot because they were doing a type of job that required them to go from site to site to
Hmm.
do implementation of some high tech
Hmm.
work. So they had to.
Okay.
There was no choice for them.
Right.
So I think it gave them all a pass. But because we
Yeah.
voluntarily
Yeah.
moved,
We're criticized.
we were criticized
Yeah.
because why would you leave? Why
Hmm.
do you want to go?
Hmm. Hmm.
And uh,
That's a.
it's no different. It's no different because we went and worked somewhere
Hmm.
else.
Hmm.
So why is it different? And why is it perceived differently? And no criticism to our family, but I think it's normal, at least in the United States, and I think most countries, it's normal for people who don't move,
Yeah.
who are those rooted
Yeah.
people, to
Yeah.
look at those who choose to
Hmm.
move
Hmm.
as weird or odd,
It's
or
a threat,
it's
though.
a
It's
threat.
a threat.
And why is it threatening to them? There's no, it's not like we're saying you're not good enough.
Hmm.
Because I kind of wonder, are they thinking we don't love you? You're not good enough.
No.
We're going to leave you,
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
what
Yeah.
is it about it? It makes them so uncomfortable that we leave.
Well, I'll take a shot at it,
Okay,
because I have family right now that are not talking to me because I've moved.
great.
Yeah. But it's a threat, because not particularly you leaving, but because other people can leave that they need around them,
Mm,
and that's a threat. So if one leaves, others can leave,
yeah.
and it threatens their rooted community that we never felt and we
Right.
never have. So
Right.
we don't understand their frustration, their
Mhm.
fears,
Mhm.
and we think of it as like an exciting opportunity. And on top of that, I was going to mention that when we look at our US culture,
Mhm.
how independent we are, how we're able to just pick up and move and follow our dreams, move to Hollywood, move to New York, and we all support that,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because it's dreams, it's work, it's income, it's capitalism.
Mhm.
But if it's uprooting your culture, it's almost like that's that draws the line.
Yeah.
And so, how much do we talk about that as in our U.S. culture? How much do we understand that our image is so independent and follow your dreams,
Mhm.
yet we don't accept certain reasons, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it almost seems contrary
Mhm.
to the entire foundation of the
Mhm.
United States where
Mhm.
everyone's coming in as an immigrant to
Uh-huh.
pursue dreams, so why can't they do it
Uh-huh.
globally? Another thing that I wanna go back to here about repeating the migratory, patterns of
Mhm.
childhood, I, as an adult, wanted to settle
Mhm.
somewhere
Mhm.
where I wouldn't do that to my children, and I tried so hard. We moved when they were young
Mhm.
to Seattle,
Mhm.
but we finished our degrees there. We were there for 4 years, and
Mhm.
that during that time, our family moved to Portland, Oregon
Mhm.
from Southern California. And then we moved there.
Mhm.
We lived there for 3 years,
Mhm.
and then that's when I was working founding Barbier,
Mhm.
and I wanted to be a teacher, and
Mhm.
I just received that calling.
M'kay.
And then the only way for me to do it at that time, because I had a bachelor's degree, but I didn't have that 5th year
Right.
that you need for teaching,
Mhm.
there was no real easy way to do it in Oregon, and at that time in Oregon, to be a teacher, you had to have your master's.
Right.
They removed that
Mhm.
after I left,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
during that time, that's
'Cause
how
they
I
had a
had to be.
shortage.
It would
Uh-huh.
exactly.
Mhm.
So I moved to North Carolina,
Mhm.
basically in a Teach for America type program called NC Teach,
Mhm. Mhm.
and Michael, my
Mhm.
husband, he also
Mhm.
joined forces, and became a teacher as well.
Mhm.
And we went there. He had a different job and left that job and became a teacher. I had that job to become a teacher. I had a job in North Carolina and I loved teaching. I
Mhm.
loved every moment of being a teacher in North Carolina.
Mhm.
So did Michael. We had a great experience and we thought that was it. We weren't ever moving again. And we came to the point where our son was going to start high school
Mhm.
and the economic opportunities where we lived were, it was a very rural
Mhm.
community. And this is the curse of being a TCK
Mhm.
because we knew that there were better economic and educational opportunities outside of where we were living.
Mhm.
And we knew what was in front of us and what limitations were there.
Yeah.
We didn't want to do that and make our kids have that experience.
Right.
So we decided to move back to family in Portland.
Yeah.
So we left before he started high school.
Mhm.
It was great for our son
Yeah.
because he graduated middle school, went right into high school.
Mhm.
Plus, also, he and I were, and we talked about this, the mixed race identity again, it's very tied into
Yeah.
this. He and I were very much othered in
Yeah.
the South.
Mhm.
He was bullied
Mhm.
for his look of
Mhm.
ethnicity.
Mhm.
And my husband and my daughter were not. But what didn't factor in
Yeah.
was that when we moved back,
Mhm.
it wasn't what was great for my daughter. It
Mhm.
wasn't what was best for her because
Mhm.
she was thriving in that community
Wow.
because she
Interesting.
was fully accepted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so,
Mhm.
and we're thinking, okay, from an edge, we just don't want them literally in our heads.
Yeah.
We don't want them getting drunk on Saturday night, tipping cows out in the pond.
Yeah.
Like
Uh-huh.
you know,
You
and
hear about it. The
you hear
teenagers are doing it.
exactly. And
Mhm.
we're like, we want to give them something else
Mhm.
because I had taught high school the last few years we were there, and there were children there because believe me, people, high school students might look like adults, but they're children.
Mhm.
And those children had never been on public
Mhm.
transportation, had never been out of their county.
Mhm.
And that scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my child, and this is my own prejudice.
Mhm.
And I say this now because I think I'm just self realizing this. I
Mhm.
didn't want my children to marry into the rooted culture that would limit them
Yeah.
because I saw it as a limitation.
Yeah.
And that's my own prejudice, probably.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I wanted them to be around a more diverse, open, accepting community.
Yeah.
And that's where we also came back.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so there are some curses to being a TCK because there's some curses to you seeing the other side
Yeah. Mhm.
and seeing what's good and what's bad. You don't idolize. People think, "Oh, we're always like looking for Shangri-La and Mecca and whatever."
Mhm.
But you don't idolize where you move to
Mhm.
always as a TCK.
Mhm.
It's right in freaking in front of your face and
Mhm.
you know
Mhm.
limitations because you've been somewhere else.
Mhm.
So, it can be very, very difficult. And so not all TCKs are chameleons.
Mhm. Right.
And so this is where I'm getting with
Great
this.
point. Yeah.
There are 2 other personality
Okay.
personas that can be a TCK as a major persona. and one's called a screamer. Those
Okay.
are the ones that try to identify themselves as different. And I'm going to
Mhm.
use my husband as his example
Okay.
because when they moved to Texas,
Right.
he spiked his hair
Mm.
and all of a sudden became this alternative kid,
Mhm.
which he always was.
Yeah.
But he was before very, very mainstream.
Mhm.
And then he gets there,
Mhm.
and then it was just
He
all
was
bets are off.
emphasizing what was he
He
trying
was
to emphasize?
emphasized his California difference.
Because it was labeled him
Yes,
he had
because they were
labeled him all
labeling him.
so his way of saying, "Accept me now."
Accept me how I
Yeah.
am because I'm
Yeah.
just gonna stand out and I'm not gonna blend
Mhm.
in.
Mhm.
If
Mhm.
I had been the kid moving to
Yeah.
Texas, I would have started dressing the same,
Yeah.
listening to the same stuff or whatever.
Mhm.
He, on the other hand,
Mhm.
said, "Fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm just you better like me the way I am.
Mhm.
I'm screaming." And
Okay.
so he wore black and white
Yeah.
and he didn't listen to ZZ Top and Led
Mhm.
Zeppelin and instead Echo and the Bunnymen and
Mhm.
all the 4AD records. And
Mhm.
that's when he got into the Cocteau Twins. And
Yeah.
I mean, completely
Mhm.
alternative
Mhm.
music that
Mhm.
he had to listen to an obscure radio program on Sunday nights to
Right.
hear this music. And that was the days people that we used to have to sit by the radio and tape it with
Mhm.
cassettes
Mhm.
to be able to listen
Yeah.
to it the rest
Back
of
in
the
the
week.
day.
Yeah, back in the day. But then
Okay.
there's another
What's
identity,
the 3rd?
the wallflower.
Okay.
The wallflower tries to find non-identity.
Mhm.
I understand that one as well because if I am not a chameleon, I'm not a screamer. I'm a wallflower.
Okay.
That's I think you can probably at different times, depending on the country you're
Yeah.
in and the culture you're in,
Yeah.
you might a TCK could probably easily pick different personas.
So basically the chameleon can become a wallflower or a screamer.
I believe so.
Yeah.
I definitely
I can see
believe
that.
so. And I know like when I was in Guatemala for that year,
Mhm.
I had the worst experience ever. I hated it. I wasn't accepted.
Mhm.
I was seen as that gringa
Mhm. Mhm.
and I was othered so terribly. I had no friends and I literally walked around at lunchtime and break time and
Mhm.
I didn't interact and
Yeah.
I just tried not to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was not fun.
Mhm.
And I couldn't wait to get back to the States.
Yeah.
And then finally enough, we get back to the States and they throw me into upstate New York,
Right.
which as a kid, I loved my experience in 1st and 2nd grade there.
Mhm.
I go back for 7th grade
Yeah.
and I was completely othered
Can
as
imagine.
that weird Latin girl that was from California,
Mhm. Mhm.
that weirdo
Yeah.
chick.
Mhm.
And I went from one fire right
Mhm.
into the next.
I'm sure a lot of people identify with that,
And
you
it
know?
was, yeah,
Yeah.
it was awful. And it
Yeah.
wasn't New York City.
Mhm. Mhm.
It was upstate New York, which is basically, as somebody that I really appreciate recently said, it's basically the deep South.
Mhm. I heard I heard about upstate.
Yeah.
We also know about, Oregon past Portland too,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
Oh, gosh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Absolutely, people. It's rural America,
Yeah.
and that's a different situation than
Yeah.
metropolitan
Mhm.
America, or suburban. So it says that these different personalities come from causes, according to Pollock and Van Rieken, that include the stress.
Mhm.
Most CCKs, from the multi identity, the
Mhm.
multiplicity of cultures that they experience in their childhood, when they try to repatriate or fit into some other culture's
Mhm.
boxes
Mhm.
that people expect them to belong, but then they often are denied
Mhm.
because of race, nationality,
Yeah.
or more traditional ways of defining
Mhm.
culture.
Mhm.
And I absolutely 100% I completely hold on to that.
Yeah.
And when I talk about this girl that I said was my best friend in high school, she was more the frenemy.
Yeah.
When I reflect back on the relationship,
Okay.
she did a lot of verbal bullying,
Mhm.
and I don't, and honestly,
Mhm.
I forgive her for
Mhm.
that, and I
Mhm.
don't think that she realized
Mhm.
what she was doing because
Yeah.
she herself was she was a very unhappy, depressed person,
Mhm.
and it made me sad
Yeah.
because there was really great moments. I had friendships with her and she liked that I was different,
Mhm.
but she also wanted to be different.
Yeah.
She later goes on to go live in France and
Mhm.
marries a Frenchman and she's never come back to the US
Mhm.
and she hates the States as far as I know.
Right.
Last I spoke to her, she's like, I don't ever want to be there.
Uh-huh.
So I think internally something in her
Yeah.
always felt different and she
Right.
wanted to be away.
She didn't know how
Sh-
to accept
sh-
or express it.
she did not express it well.
Mhm.
So, we were children. You
Yeah.
can't hold children accountable
Mhm.
a lot in that
Mhm.
situation when they're still developing, and
Mhm.
girls in particular just so mean to each other in their
Mhm.
teenage years.
Mhm.
I'm just going to go out there. Those female identifying kids,
Yeah.
they are vicious. Vicious little, you know what. So I've seen it, and as a
Yeah.
teacher,
Yeah.
I've experienced it in watching my kids grow
Mhm.
up. I've experienced it as a female.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's not cool. I don't know why we do it to ourselves, but there's a whole nother research on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. The brain, the teenage brain.
The teenage
It's
brain.
and it's a topic.
I don't think the teenagers should take drugs because I think their brain is constantly on drugs of some kind of hormone flux.
It's developing.
It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Parts of the brain are not developed yet.
Mm-mm, no.
Um yeah, you brought up to I don't think we brought this up in the second episode, but
Mm-mm.
we talked about passing and
Yeah.
the differences of the experiences of passing versus being rejected. And
Right.
so when you talk about skin color, for example, the darker your skin,
Mm-hmm.
the quicker your rejection is.
Right.
And so that seems to be w- known throughout society as the bad experience that we all sympathize with, right? But the passing experience is different. It's a different
Completely.
type of struggle because you what's more painful is being, and especially being young,
Mm-hmm.
being accepted and then later rejected. So
Yep.
you put your foot
Yep.
in that door, you build the friendship, you start to build a bond, and then you realize you can't continue because
Right.
they won't accept you,
Right.
or they will judge you, they will reject you. And we're not taking away, we're not saying it's harder, we're saying
Mm-hmm.
it's different.
Mm-hmm.
And psychologically, spiritually, it's different than
Mm-hmm.
being rejected on the first day.
Right. And
And
and and the thing about that is that those kids that I went to school in seventh grade
yeah.
were some of the same kids I went to school in first and second grade.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I had all these different experiences between third and sixth grade.
Mhm.
So when I got back,
Yeah.
I was definitely different.
Mhm.
And I couldn't repatriate to that group.
Yeah.
And when I got back to California for
Mhm.
eighth grade with
Mhm.
the kids that I'd gone to for third and fourth grade
Mhm.
and some of fifth grade,
Mhm.
I had an lesser hard, I had a more open experience with
Mhm.
them repatriating
Yeah.
because there were it, and I'm just going to be out with it
Yeah.
because we were in cities.
Yeah.
Because we were in
More
cities,
acceptance.
more acceptance, there was more
Yeah.
diversity.
Mhm.
And so that also has something to do with it
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
But I want to highlight what you're talking about.
Mhm.
There's a film, a very short film that I
Mhm.
just recently watched.
Mhm.
It was shortlisted in the 2012 Oscars called uh, The Road Home.
Okay.
And you can watch it on roadhomefilm.com.
Mhm.
It's an amazing movie. It's like 20 minutes. And there are 14 language options on the
Mhm.
DVD if you get that, but you can watch it online, stream it online by
Okay.
producer Raul Gandotra.
Mhm.
And it's about a young man, a British young man,
Mhm.
returning to where his parents considered his home to be
Okay.
and his struggles to find his place. So basically, what happens is parents are British
Mhm.
and he's British, and they
Mhm.
put him in a school called the Woodstock School
Mhm.
in the Himalayas.
Mhm.
And he's there with all of these international children,
Mhm. Mhm.
boarding school.
Okay.
Okay, so that just in itself being sent away
Mhm.
is very, very difficult.
Sure.
There's many European
Mhm.
people that think boarding school is the way
Mhm.
to educate your children and that
Right.
there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
And most Americans think, oh my God, you're sending your kid away. You must not love them.
Mhm.
But I want to make sure that people understand boarding school is not a negative experience for every student. But in this particular situation, it talks a little bit about that, but it mostly focuses on the fact that the first scene, he's standing there in his British prep clothes
Yeah.
and with white makeup all over his face. Looks like maybe he's dipped his face in flour.
Hmm.
And they're all screaming at him, Indian, 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 in Hindu,
Okay.
in Hindi,
Okay.
screaming at him, Indian, 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 and he runs away.
Okay.
And he says, take, and he doesn't speak Hindi.
Uh-huh.
And the cab drivers are speaking to him in Hindi,
Uh-huh.
and they're looking at him, he's washed his face, and the next morning he
Yeah.
takes off, and he's very wealthy. He's got a buttload of rupees in his hand,
Okay.
and the guy's like looking at him like he wants to take advantage of this kid, and he's like wrestling. The taxi driver's wrestling with his conscience. Should I do this? Should I not do this?
Mhm.
And the kid's like, I just take me to the airport. I want to go back to Britain.
Okay.
He's just gets ticked off at the cab driver. He gets out of the cab. He's walking down. The cab driver was trying to be mindful of him. Is following him behind
Mhm.
because he's worried about this kid
Yeah.
that he's up in the Himalayas and he's trying to get to New Delhi, which is, a very long way
Yeah.
away. And he ends up at this small little restaurant, and he's going up to the guy saying, "I want an orange juice," in English,
Mhm.
and the guy's looking at him, speaking to him in Hindi, and the subtitles are, "Why aren't you speaking Hindi? Why are you not talking to me in a language?" And the
Uh-huh.
cab driver's like, "Because he doesn't speak it." So he gets the orange juice. He sits down, and then there's a woman next to him, where most of us would say cultural appropriation. She's dressed completely in Indian wardrobes,
Mhm.
including, face jewelry and
Mhm.
everything, but she's obviously Anglo. She's obviously not Indian, right?
Okay.
And she's speaking to him with a French accent in English,
Mhm.
but she's from there
Mhm.
because her mother moved there
Mhm.
when she was an infant.
Okay.
So, but she's Indian. She identifies as Indian inside.
Mhm.
And so what it gets to is the fact that this boy looks Indian from the outside, but identifies as white British on the inside. And then the clutch of this is that these two elderly English people are trying to figure out how to get to see the Himalayas, and they walk up to him
Mhm.
and start speaking to him in their broken Hindi.
Okay. Mhm.
And they're having a conversation in English saying, "Oh, well,"
Mhm.
and speaking to him slowly, "How do I get to the mountains,"
Mhm.
or something? And the husband's like, "Well, that's not gonna," speaking to him in English, "How's that gonna help anything?"
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then he turns and he just looks at him. He's like, "If you want to see the Himalayas, it's over there." And the guy was just shock on his
Mhm.
face. He felt like an idiot. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, thank you." And they
Mhm.
just walk off.
Mhm.
And that's when he realized, I guess I am Indian.
Mhm.
And to some degree, that's
Yeah.
part of his identity. So he goes back to the school.
Okay.
The cab driver takes him back against his will. He falls asleep in the cab. So the cab driver's like, "No, I got to take him back. I can't just take him to Delhi. I can't do this.
Yeah.
I have to take him back and be
Yeah.
responsible," because he had known from his boss that they were looking for him.
Mhm.
So he takes him back, and he goes to the school, and the group of kids that were yelling at him before, they're like, "So you finally ready to admit you're Indian? Are you finally ready to admit you're going to join us here?" And there was like, it looked like some other European Anglo kid. There was an Asian kid, several Asian kids, several mixed East Asian kids,
Mhm.
variety of children standing there in front of him.
Yeah.
And then he says, "You know what? You see what you want to see."
Mhm.
And then he walks away. And then
Mhm.
there was this little Japanese girl that walks up to him and
Mhm.
holds his hand, and then they like he smiles at her, and like
Mhm.
you leave the film like knowing he's gonna be okay,
Yeah.
or he's gonna make it okay.
Mhm.
He's gonna make his own way.
Yeah.
But I cried.
Yeah.
I cried so I was like, "Oh
Really?
my god,"
Yeah.
because totally understood it.
Yeah.
I understood my whole life not
Exactly.
understanding. I
Right.
always talk about this, that I
Mhm.
never understood that people looked at me and saw a Latina,
Mhm. Mhm.
because I didn't feel Latina. I
Yeah.
wasn't raised to be
Right.
Latina. I'm like, I'm just an American kid.
Mhm.
I'm just, like everybody else, red, white,
Mhm.
and blue. And
Mhm.
I didn't think of myself as ethnic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I had that same struggle,
Mhm.
and I had to finally embrace it to
Yeah.
understand
Mhm.
that's just part of who I am and that there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
But so this gets
Mhm.
to the next part of the information where it says another challenge for
Mhm.
CCKs is that they may be changing boxes as their mobility takes them from one cultural community or environment to another.
Changing boxes?
Yes, listen to this.
Okay.
Depending on their circumstances, some CCKs never know what it is to live in either the foreigner
Mhm.
or mirror boxes where identities are relatively clear, but may always be in one of the more ambiguous boxes of hidden immigrant or adopted. The reality of the challenges many CCKs face, in this part of their life is
Mhm.
that they have to acknowledge the reality that this world of multiple cultures that they have experienced as children is a valid place of belonging,
Mhm.
even if not rooted in one geographical place or ethnicity, and need to stop pathologizing. Oh my God. I
Uh-huh.
can't say that word. Pathologizing.
That's a word.
It's a word. Pathologiz. No, I'm saying it wrong. Pathologizing. Well,
Pathologizing?
stop
No.
being pathological, let's put it that
Okay.
way,
There you
with
go.
the issues, but begin to perhaps define new norms.
Mhm.
So instead of constantly
Mhm.
having to explain
Mhm.
and tell our
Mhm.
stories of why we are the way we are,
Mhm.
accept that we have new norms.
Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
explain.
Right.
Have people see you.
Mhm.
And that's okay.
Mhm.
If they wanna look at me and see that I'm Latina,
Mhm.
fine. If
Mhm.
they wanna look at me and see that I'm whatever they think they see, fine. My husband happens to think I look more German
Mhm.
than I look anything else because when we went to Germany, he's like, "Oh my god, they all look like you over here."
Mhm.
And from because I've never, like, fit
Yeah.
in anywhere.
Yeah.
But he says that's the most he's ever seen me look like were the people from Germany, which is hilarious
Yeah.
because, yeah, I am significantly German on my father's side, but
Mhm.
I never identified as I never, like,
Yeah.
had any of that, like,
Mhm.
need as a kid
Mhm.
to be like, "Oh, yeah, I'm German,
Mhm.
apparently, blah, blah, blah." But
Mhm.
I look in the mirror now and I definitely see Latina.
Mhm.
Like, I am okay with it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't shame me, it doesn't make me sad, it doesn't,
Mhm.
and I now understand as this third culture kid
Yes.
that people are going to see me however they need to see me. When I
Mhm.
go to Guatemala, they see me as an American.
Mhm. Mhm.
When I was in Costa Rica, they saw me as some international kid.
Yeah.
When I was in California,
Mhm.
oftentimes Latinos would just walk up and start talking to me in Spanish,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And that's okay. Like
Yeah.
it's okay. And I think when you talked about feeling settled in
Mhm.
Spain,
Yeah.
because I have the same exact feelings about Spain.
Okay.
I've never felt more at home
Mhm.
ever than here,
Oh,
more accepted
yeah.
than here.
It's amazing.
California
Mhm.
is the only other place when I lived in Los Angeles
Mhm.
where I felt
Mhm.
where I belonged
Okay.
in terms of the way people look,
Right. Right.
but I was still always not comfortable in the culture of the United States. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
And
Similar experience there.
right. So here in Spain, culturally and
Mhm.
politically,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
feel much more at home.
Yeah.
I feel more belonging to this group of people here
Yeah.
from those perspectives,
Mhm.
from their worldviews,
Mhm.
their values of valuing people and
Mhm.
not shooting everyone with guns. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
Um, and I really feel like there's a piece here that I cannot get in the United
Yeah.
States, but I also know that
Mhm.
when people look at me,
Mhm.
unless they hear me speak Spanish
Mhm.
and hear my accent in
Mhm.
Spanish, they don't assume
Mhm.
that I'm not from here,
Mhm.
but or they assume maybe she's just a European
Mhm.
from somewhere else.
Mhm.
They don't look at me, but they what they do assume initially once they hear me is they think I'm British
Okay.
because
Mhm.
they can't tell the difference
Right.
between American and
Yeah.
British
Mhm.
accents,
Mhm.
which is another episode.
Interesting.
Our
Yeah.
deep dive on
Yeah.
accents.
Yeah. 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 There's a lot of topics right
Yeah,
there.
there's a
But
lot. There's a lot. Come
mhm.
at me with what you think.
I know. I just had a brain fart because I had so much to say and then it all just left my brain.
No, don't leave your
But
brain. Don't leave.
I have a similar feeling about California. You would think
Yeah,
that's the best place for me to be.
right.
There's something culturally that I don't feel fully accepted
Mhm.
by.
Mhm.
And I think California, with all of its image
Yeah.
and its values that are different from the other states,
Mhm.
there's still a foundation of the overall mainstream society
Yeah. Yeah.
underneath.
Mhm.
And it's a good question to ask, like, why do I feel more settled in Spain versus California? Because
Right.
California is like the dreamland for everybody. Everybody,
Yeah.
even in Spain, is like, why would you leave?
Right. Right. We
Like
get that all the
in
time.
Madrid, beautiful city. Why
Mhm.
would you live here? They
Mhm.
say that. Why would you live here?
I know. It's amazing.
Um, you're right. There's something culturally or just spiritually that I
Mhm.
feel
Mhm.
settled. Maybe not so much belong. It's not like everybody embraced me and say welcome,
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but there's a sense of settled, feeling settled,
Mhm.
and that's just so deep, possibly, that I can't explain it yet.
Right.
There's going to be another episode. I'll give you a
Yes.
tiny hint that I was going to delve into that a little bit.
All right.
But here is how I managed to feel very settled here. And I'm talking about forming my community, because
Mhm.
it's really about community.
It is.
It's about community. For me, especially, my kids are grown up, and they all found their own way.
Mhm.
And you guys are here, which is amazing. But I also wanted to expand my community,
Mhm.
and feel like Madrid and Spain is a place where I'm going to live forever. And
Yep.
to have that feeling, I wanted to see how easy it is to build a community here. And what I have done may be very tactical and
Mhm.
strategic,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
because over the years of practicing how to make friends, how to fit in, how to adapt, culminated into my experience here. And what I have done is basically made contact and uh, initiated friendships with everybody, but the ones who stayed are basically other TCKs,
Right.
basically people who understand me.
Because you have a basketball group that is
Mhm.
a lot of TCKs.
Basketball in general attracts TCKs here because it's not the biggest sport. So you tend to get international people. You tend to get people who don't follow the mainstream, because basketball
Mhm.
is not mainstream, especially in
Mhm.
Madrid. And it's easy to make friends there because they all share some sort of lack of belonging or
Right.
lack of mainstream. But even beyond that, I've intentionally created my group around me,
Mhm.
not so much being exclusive.
Mm.
No, I'm not saying you can't belong, or, but basically saying I'm creating a lot of friendships, and the ones that stay, I know exactly why they're staying, and
Right.
I cultivate those.
Right.
The ones who are kind of shaky, I don't cultivate them, but they kind of just leave on their own. They just kind of die on their own.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's like it's not selective friendships. It's just more like I'm conscious about whose friendship to cultivate that are healthy,
Right.
and who's
Right.
to let go that don't have much of a future, that don't
Mhm.
have that spirit.
And that's something that I struggled with my whole life
Yeah.
because I wanted to keep my core friends
Hmm. Hmm.
and I had to learn that some of them were never my friends
Yeah.
and that it was okay to let them go
Hmm.
because my grief was very founded in loss.
Hmm.
And I would go to extremes where I would contact everybody I
Hmm.
used to know and try to
Hmm.
rekindle everything
Hmm.
and like, hey guys, I'm back.
Yeah.
What did I miss?
Hmm. Hmm.
And it's not that simple.
Yeah.
And it's, and I shouldn't want that
Hmm.
in my own personal judgment.
Hmm.
Every child wants to be accepted, every adult wants to be accepted. But I think to my detriment, I wanted to be accepted so desperately
Hmm.
that I think it, for the rooted cultured kids,
Yes.
it came across as wanting to be s- something else.
Hmm.
It came across as
Hmm.
being fake.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I bet we get a lot of TCKs, I bet get that
Yeah.
label
Yeah.
because they're desperately trying to
Hmm.
fit in
Hmm.
and not be
Yeah.
marginalized because they want to blend. Because it's painful to stand out unless you can be that screamer. And
Yeah.
salute those screamers for
It's
being so strong.
mhm.
But not to say that they don't have their own grief and loss
Yeah,
either, but they deal
that's
with
good
it
to say that.
differently.
They deal with it
And
differently.
and I, we're more empathetic to
Mhm,
culture, right?
mhm,
So we expect
mhm,
others to be empathetic to us, which
mhm.
then leads us to getting our feelings hurt a
Yeah,
lot when it's
exactly.
not returned.
Right.
And we have to think of it now as, well, look, those children didn't have our
Mhm.
experiences. But while we're going through that, there's
Yeah.
no one to guide us there,
Right.
right? So there was no way for us to understand. They weren't intentionally trying to
Yeah.
be cruel,
Mhm.
but they didn't have a reason to be
Yeah.
empathetic.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because most teenagers aren't.
If you're
So, you know,
I just had this little out of body moment. If one of our listeners right now
right?
is a parent to a 8, 9, 10-year-old
Yeah.
child that's
Yeah.
TCK,
Mhm.
imagine this whole Pandora's box we just opened to
I
that
hope
parent.
so. I
You know
this
what I
that
mean?
that's the reason we do this, right?
Mhm,
This
mhm.
is a podcast about culture,
Yeah.
right? This is not just about language, but
Mhm,
we weave everything in that we do. And again, this is not our day
mhm,
job, but
mhm,
this is a passion that we have
mhm.
for an extension of what we
Right.
do in our careers at
Yeah.
Barbier International. And I really, really hold on to our experiences as people doing this work because of that. If we can reach the one out
Mhm,
of however many that need to hear this,
mhm,
that we can share with them
mhm.
what we've learned.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's just so gratifying because
Mhm,
I wished I had had this guidebook or this
mhm,
roadmap. And
mhm,
I know that if I had at least learned about this earlier in my life,
mhm.
I think a lot of things might have been a little bit less difficult for me
Sure.
because I still, and again, part three is going to
Mhm.
be
Mhm,
ATCKs,
mhm,
but identity, right?
mhm.
So I think it's important that we understand our identities. And I did some further digging since the last part one that we recorded this, and I found with David Pollock, again co-author
Okay.
of the TCK book,
Mhm,
that there were some other labels,
mhm,
and that under the traditional third culture kids
mhm,
are the foreign service kids,
mhm,
corporate brats,
mhm,
missionary kids,
mhm,
military brats,
mhm,
okay,
mhm,
and then the other international people.
mhm,
So I am there,
mhm,
right? But then there's the multicultural children.
mhm,
Then there's the mixed heritage children.
mhm,
Then there's the domestic TCKs we
mhm,
talked about, the international adoptees, children of refugees, children of immigrants. But I like that they've added this
mhm.
into educational CCKs.
TCK.
No, educational CCKs,
Okay.
cross cultural kids, educational cross cultural kids. So I feel like my kids kind of fall in that window too,
Mhm.
because we moved to go teach in North Carolina
Right.
for the education background of things. And we also, and they were cross cultural because
Mhm,
of results of that,
mhm.
right? Because we were in there to teach,
Right.
and we weren't doing missionary work. We were
Mhm,
teaching,
mhm,
just like if you did Peace Corps
mhm.
teaching. Then there's also the children of borderlanders.
Okay.
And I thought that was fascinating. And think about people that are on borders.
Mhm,
In Europe, it's much easier to figure that out because
mhm,
everybody's right on a border. It seems
mhm,
like if you're living on the peripheral,
mhm,
but if you're a border kid,
mhm.
in Canada, US,
Yeah.
like if you're living up in Bellingham,
Mhm.
you're going to have some Canadian influence in what you're
Okay.
doing, or you have kids down in in
Mm.
Baja,
Mhm,
you're San
mhm.
Diego,
Right.
and that influence of Mexico
Mhm,
and US,
mhm,
or even kids out in what's it called, Mexicali,
mhm,
that's on the border out there of Nevada.
mhm.
And then there's the it's just all the little
Yeah.
borders. You think of all the borders around.
Okay.
So that's going to be something that's going to be an influence. And I'm
Mhm,
just,
mhm.
simplifying it.
Okay.
But then there's also something else that they touched on in this map that I really liked
Mhm.
and we haven't talked about.
Okay.
And this is the last part of part 2
Okay.
that I want to focus on. The children and minorities, both you and me,
Mhm,
okay? There are privileged
mhm,
children and
mhm,
minorities, and then there's marginalized.
mhm,
I believe in my mind,
mhm,
you were part of the privileged
mhm,
children and minorities, and I was part of the marginalized
mhm,
because of where our mothers came from.
mhm,
And I know you talk about your father's background,
mhm,
and I want to be sensitive to that.
mhm, mhm.
He was not white passing,
No.
but that never seemed to be in California where you were at
Mhm,
an issue for you.
mhm,
From everything I know about you, correct
mhm,
me if I'm wrong, but it
mhm,
never seemed to be an issue for you
mhm,
because were more you weren't white passing, but you were
mhm.
more ethnically
Ethnic passing in
ethnic
California.
passing in
Yeah. In
California.
another state, it would have been different. Right.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. We don't have, as far as economically,
Right.
we were very middle class.
Yep.
And my mother came from a country, she was born in war torn Japan with
Mhm.
just in shambles,
Mhm.
but with a lot of restrictions for women. And for various reasons, she came, but a lot of it is economic opportunity. It wasn't refugee status, it wasn't anything like that. But I don't. absolutely do not claim to have any feeling or identity as being marginalized as in terms of economics, because I had a very opportunity. College was cheap back then, and we were able to pay like cash. We didn't I didn't need to get a loan. It was a lot cheaper, but we didn't need to get some people had to get a loan back then, but we didn't. My parents made enough money. And you bring up something because I see a lot more minorities that are privileged now than I did before. And it's become more and more of a topic that is being talked about.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sensitivity because
Mhm.
people the stereotype is that if you're a minority, you're marginalized. And
Right.
so if you're privileged, then you're not a real minority, you know?
Exactly.
And that's a really sensitive topic.
Mhm.
But I would say, I don't read every single journal and watch every interview, but I would say because of that sensitivity,
Mhm.
it might not be talked about enough.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree because the other side of that is
Mhm.
just because my mother did come from Guatemala
Yeah.
and she was a single mom because,
Mhm.
my parents got divorced
Mhm.
and my mom had to make a living for us.
Mhm.
It was already automatically assumed because she
Mhm.
was a single mother from a Latin American country
Mhm.
that we were like dirt poor.
Yeah.
And granted, she struggled, but we were never poor. We
Okay.
were never rich, but
Yeah.
we were upper poor, low middle class.
Right.
But I was able to do everything my
Mhm.
friends could do in
Mhm.
school. I mean,
Mhm.
I couldn't do it as in the frequency as
Mhm.
them. I
Okay.
didn't get to go shopping at record albums and things
Mhm.
like that, like
Mhm.
all my other kids. But I got to go to the
Mhm.
movies a lot
Mhm.
and I got to join and participate in all the groups at school. I was
Mhm.
never on free lunch,
Okay.
so I definitely didn't fit. And that was the other
Mhm.
part.
Okay.
I didn't fit with the
Yes.
minorities who
Which,
were.
yes, is a topic. It's
It's
a
a
it's a topic. We
topic.
don't fit
We
anywhere.
don't fit,
Right.
right?
Right.
It was like, okay, so now that I'm back
Mhm.
and there's lots of people with money
Yeah.
around me
Yeah.
that I definitely did not fit in with,
Mhm.
but I definitely didn't fit in also with the free lunch group. God
Yeah.
love them, but I
Mhm.
wasn't that type of Latina
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
Like my parents weren't immigrant farm
Mhm.
workers, which
Mhm.
is, what people think of.
Mhm.
And there's, many people on free lunch for many reasons, but my mother made enough money that
Mhm.
I didn't have to
Yeah.
be. She would have probably filed for paperwork if she could,
Mhm. Mhm.
but
She didn't want you to have that stigma?
I think so.
Mhm.
My mom also is a very hardcore Republican,
Mhm.
and I think it would have killed her
Mhm.
to have filed that paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah.
She just would have felt like
That
she
was
was.
her motivation,
I
maybe.
believe so. My
Mhm.
mother was very motivated by politics. She
Mhm.
came into the country as a Democrat because she wanted democracy
Mhm.
and realized that for her politically that meant being a Republican once she understood the words because she
Yeah.
didn't want to be a Republican because she thought of republic and
Yeah.
she was leaving republics.
Right.
And so
Right.
that's also a common thing going into the United
Interesting.
States.
Yeah.
I, on the other hand, am a,
Mhm.
bedwetting liberal,
Mhm.
which also makes it interesting how
Mhm.
that it has
Yeah.
changed for me. But what I do believe to be true is the fact that all minority children of minority and their experience being
Mhm.
TCKs
Mhm.
is also so many subcategories within.
Mhm.
And I'm going to also talk about this. My children are TCKs of privilege.
Mhm.
So my children had a very middle to upper middle class upbringing.
Mhm.
We started off poor and
Mhm.
we made our way up
Mhm.
because my husband and I, we went back to school. And
Mhm.
so we just went to school on grants and loans.
Mhm.
We became teachers.
Mhm.
We had a very good middle class uh, situation where we lived in a community that our money went much further when we were in the South.
Mhm.
So that's when we started traveling internationally.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we were able to expose our children to more things. And we started traveling more locally, international,
Mhm.
or not international, but more interstate.
Right.
And then later we made a lot more money. And so from that situation, our children never had to worry about it. But we also, for different reasons, we told our kids, we will assist you to a certain point,
Mhm.
and then we expect you to be on your feet.
Mhm.
Because what we've seen on both sides of the coin, we've seen kids completely having to pay for everything. Because
Mhm.
my husband's parents also got divorced in high school.
Mhm.
And so he had to pay for a lot of his things when his mother went back to school to become a nurse.
Mhm.
And then, the other side is that we've seen kids that had just money thrown at them by their parents.
Mhm.
And I hate to use the word spoiled
Mhm.
or entitled, but there was no self-reliance.
Right.
And we wanted our children, we were happy to get, and we still do. We give our kids money when they need it,
Mhm.
but we also wanted them to be self-reliant, because the day we leave as parents
Mhm.
from this earth,
Yeah.
they need to be able to stand on their own 2
Of
feet.
course.
And I'm proud to say that both my children
Mhm.
have made their own way, and they survive without their
Mhm.
parents.
Mhm.
And they can do whatever they want to do in the
Mhm.
world. And that's not necessarily because of us,
Mhm.
but that's because they saw the smart tactic in
Yeah.
that of being self-reliant.
Exactly.
They believed in the message that they
Mhm.
were being taught from their parents, because they had to do trial and error to figure if that was true.
Mhm.
And I think that as cross-cultural kids,
Mhm.
I think that they understood also the value in being different
Mhm.
later.
Mhm.
They've embraced it. I
Mhm.
know I know in particular my son, he's now dating again.
Okay.
His divorce was more recent,
Right.
and he is dating a variety of women,
Mhm.
and he is excited
Mhm.
in being in Los
Mhm.
Angeles. That's very, very diverse
Yeah.
in all
Mhm.
backgrounds, right?
Right.
I mean, you were in that dating pool for a
Mhm.
while. You
I
you
was.
know,
I was.
and he's so happy. He'll tell me, "Oh, I dated this beautiful girl from Sweden, then I'm with this Vietnamese woman, and
Mhm.
and this Latina, and this
Mhm.
is this black girl." And I'm like, "This is great." Like, he's
Yeah.
just embracing it.
Yeah.
And he's like, "And I'm not necessarily like, I'm just letting it come to me."
Mhm.
And I love it. And I
Mhm.
love that he's doing, and his wife was
Mhm.
this beautiful mixed Asian
Mhm.
heritage girl who had Latina and
Mhm.
European blood
Mhm.
and half Chinese.
Mhm.
Beautiful girl that he's always been attracted to different people. And like I
Yeah.
said, my daughter's ex-husband, he's German American, and he had a diverse background as
Mhm.
well. But she is definitely now dating somebody much more diverse with
Mhm.
a definitely bigger ethnic background, from Guatemala, like I said. And they are actually doing the 23andMe. He's going to find out soon
Mhm.
his background, because we all think that's fun. We
Mhm.
like to find out, oh, what are you? Like, I always like to go, oh, look at that. I got 1%,
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great.
Right.
So for me, it's like when you go traveling and you go to the national parks in the United States and you
Mhm.
collect your badges,
Mhm.
the because you can do that, right? You
Right.
go in, you get your stamps, you can get the
Mhm.
passport, you can get your badges.
Mhm.
For me, it's like, yeah, I have that, I have that badge, I have that badge. This is
Mhm.
great. I want to have every single country, if possible,
Yeah.
within my bloodline, because I
Yeah.
just find that to be
Mhm.
brilliant.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with being one race and being rooted and being, one culture.
Mhm.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
But that has been the mainstream of for so long.
Mhm.
It's been promoted as what is perfect and what is normal,
Yeah.
that there was
Hollywood.
never enough room
Yeah.
on the stage for
Mhm.
anyone else to have a conversation.
Mhm. It's we'll see how it changes because I see the our numbers growing as far as biracial, bi ethnic, multicultural, all of that. All of
Right.
that. We're just gonna grow exponentially and I am curious to see how media, the institutions, this power structure deal with that. So
That brings us to the end of part 2.
yeah, right. Two
And
parts.
yeah, 2 parts. And part 3
Mhm.
is going to be the conclusion
All right.
of TCKs, which will be coming soon.
Fantastic.
I'm not going to discuss more about that because Richard, again, wants to not know anything to follow the format of our
Hmm.
show. And let's just say, I really value you as my co host because we can have these honest conversations.
Hmm.
We do not claim to, and I'm going to do your disclaimer. You did a disclaimer recently. I'm going to do a disclaimer. Neither of us are therapists. Neither of us have gone to school to become psychologists. But what we are cultural trainers and language trainers by
Hmm.
profession, who have seen and witnessed things in our career and experienced things in our personal lives that we've drawn conclusions to.
Hmm.
And we do our research and try to present the best picture. This is just our opinions on it.
And we're being
Um,
authentic.
and we're being our
Being
authentic
authentic.
sense. Yes, we
Hmm.
are. This is organic speaking over here.
Hmm.
But I hope you've enjoyed this next episode here, part 2, listeners. And please tune in for part 3 that will be coming out shortly, like I said. And this has been translate
Translate this.
this with Richard and Melissa, and we will see you next time.
Have fun, everybody.